Good afternoon for everyone. So we started the last presentation for the second day of the International Symposium in Veterinary Science. And I would like to introduce Dr. FabioBoylan, measuring pharmacy from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, professor at the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Science and Trinicology in Dublin and at the University of Dublin. He has experience in the field of pharmacy with emphasis in phytochemistry, chemistry, and pharmacology of natural products. So, a pleasure for your presence, Dr. Boylan, and the speak to us, make your presentation.
Thank you very much, Viviane, for this kind introduction. And it's always a pleasure for me to be talking to your public in this very important international symposium on veterinary sciences. And I am going to be just speaking about my experience in the field. I'm not a veterinarian, so I'm going to be giving an overview on the situation of veterinary medicine and veterinary medicines in Europe. Just a very broad overview, specifically applications to my area, which is natural products. And I'm going to talk a little bit about complementary and alternative medicines that are used. And at the very end of my presentation, I'm going to be showing results that I obtained with a medicinal plant from Kazakhstan that we used. It's very well used there for so many possibilities, but one of the uses that we just described lately with probably 2 or 3 publications was the use for veterinary medicines as well. So I'm going to be sharing my slides here. Let me see. Share screen, and then I'm going to share my slides, and then just let me know if you guys are seeing what I'm sharing there. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I also, guys, if there is something that you want to interrupt me and ask, feel free to, because sometimes I can speak way too fast. So if there is something I'm saying that you cannot understand, just stop me. And Vivi, just interrupt me 5 minutes before my time finishes, okay? So I'm going to be talking to you about the use of veterinary and other complementary and alternative medicine techniques in veterinary medicine in Europe. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the Irish stand because I'm in Ireland. So we are here, although we are in Europe, we have also our own laws regulating this issue. So I'm going to be telling you a little bit of what's going on at the moment in Europe.
Please, Dr. Fabio.
Yeah.
I ask you for speaking more slowly because we have a closed caption, English closed caption, and so you speak so fast for the closed captions.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to be telling you about the situation and the stand of this practice in Ireland, where I am from and where I work. And but before starting talking to you about that, I like to give you an overview of the institution I come from. I come from Trinity College Dublin, which is the oldest university in Ireland. It was founded in 1592. Currently, we have short of 17,000 students and a little bit over 3,000 staff members. And our governance is by a provost and a board, which we have the vice provost in charge of the day-to-day business. And in 2020, Trinity was ranked as 101 in the whole world, according to the QS rankings. And a little bit of pictures from the universities here on the right-hand side is the library. One of the libraries is the old library, and it's a very beautiful building to be visited, and it's the house of the Book of Kells. Book of Kells is a very important book that was found in the 7th century, and it's the oldest gospel book found in Ireland. And then on the left-hand side here, you have 3 pictures of the campus. So the School of Pharmacy, where I am working at the moment, we ranked the 5th place in the world and the 18th place in Europe as the best schools of pharmacies around the world. And we have 264 undergraduate students 72 graduate students overall. And we are split in two buildings. We are here in the Panos Institute, where the majority of the offices are, and where we also have all the practical classes happening. The majority of the lectures are all spread all over the campus. And this second building here is the Trinity Biomedical Sciences Institute, which is a newer building, and it is where I conduct my research. Okay, and just for you to have an understanding where these buildings are, they are in the city center of Dublin. And in fact, Trinity College Dublin, because it was founded in 1592, you can imagine at that time, there was only Trinity College Dublin and the city grew around it. Okay, so you have the whole city. This is the main campus here. And this first star here, this first red star, is where the Panos Institute is and where my office is. And on the campus here, we use all the facilities for teaching. And the second star here is on the Trinity Biosciences Medical Institute, where my lab is located, as well as research from medicine, biochemistry, immunology, chemistry, etc. So we try to foster a really good collaboration within different disciplines by housing everyone in the same place. Now, let's start talking about what you came here to talk. If someone here listening to me take the trouble to go online to do a quick search on veterinary medicine, you're going to find a huge amount of papers published in this subject. So it's a very important subject nowadays. And in my opinion, it demands a little bit of regulation, because if it's not regulated, everyone can start doing. And why is there an increasing interest in using natural products, or anything less harmful to treat animals? So that's the question that you have to be asking. So why the veterinarians, they should be looking at something different from the allopathic medicines to treat conditions in animals? A very short answer to that is, sorry, I'm going to come back to this. The very short answer to that lies on the use or misuse sometimes of antimicrobials all over the world. So we know that animals are going to be suffering infectious diseases, and these diseases, they need to be treated. But the overuse of antibiotics is causing a huge problem. So Europe has called for lowering in the prescription and the use of antibiotics, especially for animals, specifically for the animals that are animals that you're going to be end up eating, because anyways, you're going to be eating, for example, the flesh of animals that have been treated with antibiotics. So we have to avoid this type of cross-contamination. So when you look at this figure here, you can see that the antibiotics are actually overprescribed all over Europe to treat animals. And although Italy has reduced a lot its prescription comparing to previous years, Italy still prescribes a lot more than other European countries. It's the third European country in prescription of antibiotics. So Europe has called for the lowering of the prescription of antibiotics anyway. So that this lower of prescription of antibiotics to treat all of the conditions that we know animals need to be treated, not only the animals that we have as pets, but the animals that we grow, for example, in farms as livestock, has called for the use of the techniques I'm going to be talking about, which are phytotherapeutic and complementary and alternative medicine techniques. So in Ireland, all of these is regulated by the HPRA, which is our health products regulatory agency or authority that's going to be regulating the products for using humans as well as for veterinary use. So if you go to this guide to definition of an animal remedy and the classification processes, you're going to see here the definition for what is an animal remedy according to the HPRA. So the clear definition of a veterinary medicinal product is given in its Article 1, Directive 2001 as amended. And these definitions are covered both by the presentation of the product and by the purpose for which is administered. So you need to have a very clear identification of what is a product for veterinary use as a medicine, because sometimes when you go, for example, to herbs, you may have herbs that are part of the diet. So if the herb is used as a part of a diet, it's not going to be classed as a remedy. It's not going to be classed as a medicine to animals. Only when there is no indication of the herb that's being used for any pathology, then that is going to be classed as food. But whenever you have an indication for a herb for a pathology in an animal, so that has to be looked by our health authority, and that has to be classed as a medicine. And also, there is an increased amount of homeopathic prescriptions for veterinary uses in Europe at the moment. And the HPRA is also going to be looking at these veterinary homeopathic preparations for, as I said before, both for pets as well as for livestock. Now, these complementary and alternative veterinary medicine are very well used to treating animals, and we say complementary and alternative medicines, or CAM, when it comes to humans. But in animal situation, we have acupuncture and you have other techniques. And what's important to differentiate in here is what's going to be a complementary and what's going to be an alternative medicine. Okay, so acupuncture, that is the first one that I'm going to be showing examples here, is a clear-cut case for a complementary technique, which means you're going to be doing the prescription of whatever that was prescribed for the animal plus acupuncture. Massage is also a complementary technique. Okay, so what is an alternative technique is something that's going to be used in place of the traditional way of treating animals. For example, homeopathy is an alternative technique. So we're going to be using homeopathy in place of a traditional prescribed medicine. So going through acupuncture, there are several papers that you can find online, and a very interesting one is this here that has been published in the Journal of Equine Veterinary Science. And this paper here dealt with the treatment of equine musculoskeletal back pain in horses. Okay, of course, equine is in horses. But what's very interesting, if you read this paper, is to see that the use of these techniques is very well linked to how much thought the veterinarian had with the techniques when they were studying, or how much of these techniques they seek to learn when they were in practice. So it's going to be very well linked to the wish of the veterinarian to be implementing these techniques in their practices, okay? So a couple of really good things that you can find from this paper is the summary, for example, of the complementary and alternative veterinary medicine courses taken by the respondents after they graduated from college. And look at the staggering numbers. So 54 out of 122 went to doing a course in acupuncture. 41 out of 119 went to doing a course in chiropractic. 21 out of 109 in physiotherapy, and 18 out of 110 in massage. So this just shows us a high percentage of people seeking information on these techniques of complementary and alternative medicine to include on top of their prescribed drugs. And when you compare that with the number of these same professionals who had those disciplines when they were in college, and you can see from this table, only physiotherapy, one case, was a required class or required discipline in the curriculum. All of them were electives. You see this number dropping dramatically to a maximum of 8% of the respondents doing an elective in acupuncture, because the schools of veterinary sciences not often offer these type of disciplines. Okay, so the ones that want to treat their animals, they have to do courses after graduating. But also, you can see here that the number of professionals who provide these techniques, or who refer to a colleague that could treat with these techniques when it comes to back pain in animals is also very high. Okay, and the level of satisfaction also is very high among those people, because if you put together the number of people, the number of veterinarians that say that they were satisfied or very satisfied together in using, for example, acupuncture, 72 out of them, which is 72 out of 84, which is going to be accounting here for 86% of them, if you put all the percentages together, they were satisfied or very satisfied with the result, which is a staggering number for the use of this technique among people who are practicing. Okay, so when you look at what prompts them to use these techniques, they say that's going to be depending on the philosophy of the owner, because like someone who owns these horses might not feel comfortable in taking their horses to doing those treatments, but also is going to be depending on each individual case, as in them assessing the animal and seeing if the animal would benefit of having an acupuncture session, and also you see the very small number here that never consider these complementary and alternative techniques to be applied to veterinary sciences. So this just shows us that there is a trend, and there is a trend that shows that a very high percentage here is very well satisfied and likely to recommend, 75% are likely to recommend these techniques to their clients. And when you look at the Acupuncture Veterinarian Society, they are in 32 countries all over the world. So you can see here the dark green color, the countries where they are present. Okay, so this would be a complementary technique. And an alternative technique would be homeopathy. And there is plenty of disagreement in relation to the use of homeopathy, not only for human use, but also for veterinary use. Okay, so this paper here deals with efficacy of homeopathy in livestock according to peer-reviewed publications from 81 to 2014. So it's more than 30 years evaluation of the use of homeopathy to treat livestock. And that's very important because this goes hand in hand with the overprescription of antibiotics for livestock. We don't want to buy meat that was treated previously with a huge amount of antibiotics. You want to decrease that. And the homeopathy is one possibility. So when you go through this paper, you see here that initially they identified papers that were published, over 6,000 papers, and then they lowered that to 4,000, 4.5K records after removing duplicated ones. Then they screened all of these papers and they excluded over 3,900 due to wrong species or non-accessible language and lots of biases and other problems. Then they made 327 eligible, and they excluded 279 for not matching the criteria of European conditions and peer-reviewed and all the biases as well that passed through the first analysis. And they ended up with a total of 48 publications that they included in this analysis. So out of these 48 publications, they could assess the major indications of homeopathy. So when homeopathy would be used, so differentiate cattle, pigs, and chicken. So you see a massive difference in terms of different species here when the homeopathy would be associated to. So you see mastitis, which is a severe problem for the livestock when cattle is the subject, as the main one for cattle, and you don't see that for pigs or chicken. Okay, so it's very specific to the species that they are dealing with. And you see here how the treatment was performed and how the study was evaluated in here. Now, results here, they are very clear. You can see that they have very good results as yes, homeopathy being successful in treating, but also have no, as homeopathy was not successful in treating. So for example, I just got here two dairy cows, two published papers that were analyzed and included as satisfactory for evaluation in this review, where they saw that homeopathy had no difference to the treatment that was being offered. Okay. On the other hand, we can go here to, for example, ES, which is homeopathy being really good and more effective than placebo and similar effects to the current treatment for example, reduction diarrhea for piglets. And this goes together as well in homeopathy being useful to treating infectious disease. So we have here out of the 48 papers, and you also have more here, and this is, for example, for chicken, you have again homeopathy being good in promoting growth and improving the immune system of poultry. And you can see here that out of the 48 papers that were used to evaluate, they could see 28 as superior to placebo and having efficacy for homeopathic uses or homeopathic remedies being used to treat conditions, which is a staggering way of seeing it. And also, we have another alternative technique, which is to replace the current treatment by the use of phytotherapy. And why phytotherapy is different to homeopathy? Just explaining for the veterinarians here watching me that have no idea what's the difference in there. The difference in there is that phytotherapy deals with the use of medicinal plants, and these medicinal plants are going to contain active principles that are going to have certain concentration within the parts of the medicinal plants being used. And these molecules are going to be entering the bloodstream. They're going to be finding a receptor and they're going to be developing a pharmacological response. Okay? Homeopathy may use medicinal plants, but may also use animals, parts of other animals, or even minerals. And the key with the homeopathy is how diluted the medicines are. So there is a key difference in there. Phytotherapy is the use of plants only and their chemical compounds. And the homeopathy may use plants, but once this happens, it's going to be in a very diluted way. Okay, so when you go to phytotherapy, this study here is the treatment of organic livestock with medicinal plants, because organic livestock, if I want to sell my meat under the brand of being organic, I can't really use any antibiotic for treating conditions in there. So you see that the countries that have a massive amount of use of phytotherapeutic options are going to be the ones that are more colored or colored in darker colors of red. So we have here Spain, you have Italy, and you have Turkey as nowadays the major countries in use these techniques. But even though when this paper went to find all of the really reliable papers in terms of having less biases and all the criteria that they would be deeming good criteria for classification in Europe, they went down to 75 papers from the beginning, 8,822 papers from 37 European countries, and at least one ethno-veterinary report per paper wasn't there, and the 75 papers in total had almost 3,000 ethno-veterinarian reports, which means almost 3,000 different combinations of plants being used in there. And again, if you go to find more other papers in the same subject, you're going to be ending up with similar results, and where you can also see classifying now poultry, cattle, and pig. What we saw in terms of homeopathy being used to these three different livestock, we can actually see here that phytotherapy also is going to be different in which diseases they are going to be used to each of these three different categories. And we can also see here the most studied diseases in poultry, in cattle, and in pigs that are actually very related to the species. And then, of course, they would be getting the medicinal plants that would be treating such conditions. Going to poultry, because a lot of us eat a huge amount of chicken and chicken derivatives, we could see this very good, important paper published in 2015, the International Journal of Pharmacology. And this paper here deals with the use of very good, successful herbal preparations in treating immunosuppressive diseases and acting as immunomodulatory agents for poultry. And you can see here representing in this diagram, we have that chicken, and you have the majority of the diseases that the chicken could develop while it's alive before being sold. So we have here diseases related to the immune system. You have flus, you have influenza, which can kill a lot. You have mites, and then you have a myriad of possible diseases here. Even if you look at E. coli contamination, salmonella contamination, which is something that We don't want to buy a chicken that's full of salmonella. And then we have here loads of medicinal plants that we know of, that we have even in our kitchens, that could be treating such conditions. Okay, and this paper goes really in depth at looking, for example, the action of neem. Neem is one of the main plants, Zadiracta. It's one of the main plants that they are going to be using here. The aziractagins, which are these modified triterpenoids that are limonene, they are going to be acting in the cell-mediated immunity, and they are going to be enhancing the cell-mediated immunity. They are going to be having antibacterial, antiviral, anti-malaria, antifungal, antioxidant, and immunomodulatory properties as well, together with other compounds that are found in this plant. Also, another plant that they went in depth was the ashwagandha or Witania, the genus Witania, where you can find these withanolides. And these molecules here, which are also triterpenes, they are going to be very good as antibacterial, antiviral, anti-tumor, and increasing or modulating the immunity. And we can see here, that's a very didactic diagram. So where you see these red, these blocks is the action of these molecules blocking the action, for example, of all of these interleukins and that are produced late stage. And then you can see all the green and plus signs here, which is the increase of these interleukins here that are produced with the T cells. Okay, so these molecules, they have the ability of immune modulate the poultry that we are going to be buying. So these were a couple of examples on how Europe is looking at the use of these complementary and alternative medicines for veterinary, being them both complementary or alternative techniques, which is, again, repeating, complementary in something that, such as acupuncture and massage and physiotherapy, that you're going to be using on top of the prescription that these animals are going to take from the veterinarian, and alternative that are going to be replacing the prescription. In this category, you have homeopathy and phytotherapy. Okay, in this lining of thinking, I had a PhD student from Kazakhstan. I'm a visiting professor in the Kazakh National Medical University in Almaty, Kazakhstan, in a country that I visit once or twice a year. And of course, this year I was not able to go there because of the pandemic. But my PhD students in Kazakhstan, one of them, came to work with me with this plant here, which is called Artemisia sina. Kazakhstan as a country has almost 40 or more than 40 different species of Artemisia. And just to put this into context to you, the beverage called absinthe, which is a very alcoholic drink, it's produced by the fermentation of Artemisia absinthium, which is one of the plants belonging to the same genus. But this plant, Artemisia sina, is a Kazakh plant that is very endemic to Kazakhstan and is also known as worm seeds. And the plant is going to be producing santonin. Santonin is the sesquiterpene lactone, this structure, that was used in the past as to treat humans as an antihelminthic drug, so would be killing worms. But this drug itself is very toxic to humans, so it was completely removed from the market. But people still today associate, for example, that the painter Van Gogh, all his paintings were very yellow, and people tended to associate that Van Gogh was treating his possible infestation of parasites with Artemisia sina, and one of the main causes of intoxication is disturbances of vision causing zontopsia, which is a yellow coloring. So therefore, his paintings are with that undertone always of yellow. For a high quantity of this compound can cause muscular tremors, convulsions, disturbance of vision, may be even go into blindness. So it's dangerous. But the plant could be used as antiworm for animals. But the only thing that was missing there was a very good quality control So we could assess the amount of santonin that the preparation would have, not to be toxic to the animals that they would be given. So that's the first thing we did. This is the map of Kazakhstan. This very strong orange uh, strip here is where the plant was collected and where the plant happens and occurs a lot. So we brought these to the lab. We isolated first, we isolated good quantities of santonin, and then we went on to doing all the NMRs to establish the structure, and we had to develop a HPLC, which is one of the analytical techniques to identify this compound. And we were very fortunate to come up with a HPLC method that assessed the santonin in less than 6 minutes. Okay, which is very fast and it's very reproducible and could be used in industries. So based on this technique, we went on to validate our method, and you publish these in the PLOS One journal. We validate the method by doing all the linearity, accuracy, reproduction, reproducibility, all the variables that are needed to actually see a very good technique for HPLC. And based on that, we were able to evaluate the amount of santonin that we would have in all the extracts we prepared. So that's one of the calibration curves that would be used for that. And sorry here, there is a mistake here in this graph, but you were in this chart, but you were also able to evaluate the amount of santonin in 8 different species of Artemisia from Kazakhstan. And this is really important because look here at the amount of santonin in the plants that I was studying was 3.25, which is much higher than any other species that we evaluated prior. So this high amount here could not be used, for example, in a preparation for veterinarian use. But if you titrate that down to a lesser quantity that would be non-toxic for animals, then preparations of Artemisia sina as a phytotherapeutic drug could be given in veterinary medicine. Okay? And the reason why we did the evaluation in these other species was because, as I said before, there are almost 40 species of Artemisia in Kazakhstan, and good number of those species are edible. So people would eat that in salad as well. So it's important for the food industry to evaluate the amount of santonin if that plant is going to be eaten. So then we saw the ethnopharmacological profile for this plant and the possibility of use this plant for a huge amount of other possibilities. But the problem would be having the santonin. So in my lab, we have the high-speed countercurrent chromatography machine. So using the HSCCC, we removed santonin from the CO2 extract, and then we combined everything together, and we were able to isolate this flavonoid called pectolarigenin, which is these yellow bonds. And these other yellow bonds here, although we did not isolate, we think that could be hispidolin, which is exactly the same structure with a hydrogen here as opposed to a methyl group. Okay, so these work together with all the pharmacology now done with the whole extract free of santonin, and as well as the pectolarigenin alone, isolated, they were published in Molecules this year. So we did the formalin test, which is a test for the evaluation, the initial evaluation of a potential analgesic and anti-inflammatory response. So this test is split into 2 phases, the first phase and the second phase. And they are going to be giving 2 different responses. The first phase is going to tell us the potential of a drug to be analgesic, and the second phase is going to tell us the potential of a drug to be anti-inflammatory. So we have here the structure of pectolarigenin fully described by the techniques. But back to the test, we have here the first phase and the second phase. This here is the CO2 extract free of santonin into 3 different concentrations, and here with much smaller concentration, the flavonoids, or the compound that we isolated from the extract in 1, 3, and 10 concentration, which is much lower than the 10, 30, and 100 from the extract. So you can see that the first phase and the second phase, both the extract and the isolated compound had activity, which means they could be very good anti-inflammatory and analgesic as well. Two other ways to be evaluating the property of a drug to be
Dr.
analgesic.
Fabio,
Yeah.
you have more 5 minutes only.
Okay, I'm gonna finish. So we had no action for glutamate, which is another possibility for the mechanism of action for the analgesic property, for it had activity in the receptors of capsaicin, which are the TRVP receptor. And then we saw the possibility of them to be not in very strong action, but to be analgesic for central nervous system, something similar to treating pain, chronic pain with morphine. Okay, and we saw the very strong action of the isolated compound in being anti-inflammatory using another methodology, which was the subcutaneous air pouch. So this was all published in Molecules. But these extracts as well gave a very high antioxidant profile, which brought us to evaluate it in for example, into its acetylcholinesterase activity. So we could see that it had a very strong anti-acetylcholinesterase action, and also monoamino oxidase A and B actions, which is something that shows us they have a potential to be acting in the central nervous system, and that could be related to the antioxidant property. So these actions together, all of these actions together, showed us the profile of our plant, the plant from Kazakhstan, to be used not only containing santonin, being titrated down, not to be toxic for animals, for veterinary medicine to treat worm infestation, for example, for house animals, for pets, for our cats and dogs, for example, but also for conditions that demand treating pain and inflammation, and even for like any sort of central nervous system condition that is associated with acetylcholinesterase or monoamino oxidase enzymes in animals and in humans as well, because this extract is free of the santonin. So just leaving with you here a couple of snapshots from Dublin. So whenever this pandemic is over, I invite all of you to come over and visit the country. Dublin is a lovely city. So we have all of these pictures here from the city center, as well as the countryside in Ireland with its magnificence. It's very green. That's the reason why Ireland is called Emerald Isle, because it's very green. But okay, I have to tell you the reason. The reason this that green is because it rains a lot. So here it rains more than it does in the UK. So that's a little bit of the downside of all of these greenery that you see in the landscape elsewhere. Okay, so thank you very much. So as we say in Portuguese, obrigado, and as you say in Gaelic, gorav mil mahagat. And I'm here for questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fabio. So you have part of my formation in the Federal University. Now you are part of my professional formation, and you always stay available for us. So thank you very much for your person that you are.
Viviane, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me. And I mean, I remember having you as an undergraduate student, and it's always a pleasure to be back and to be contributing. Anytime you need me, I'm there for you and for everyone. And I have collaborations with people from the rural Federal University in Rio de Janeiro, and I had people that visited me, and I'm expecting more visits as well. And we have to strengthen our collaborations. I can't wait the pandemic to be over so I can go there. And I can establish really very strongly the collaborations that I started there.
It's so good, so good. So I started reading some comments and some questions. The first comments Dr. Fabio said, thank you for your participation on the International Symposium.
Thank you.
And the Dr. Douglas McIntosh said, thank you for your stay here again. So, Melissa Carvalho, question. Which is better to use it? Okay. I'm missing the question.
So Viviane, if people wanted to ask their questions, or if they want to write for me to read,
oh, see, yes.
That's no problem. I can read. I can open the chat. Like if I go back to the room, or if the questions come here.
But the questions are in the chat on the broadcast. So I have the question in my WhatsApp.
Okay, I could go back there if you want, and people could actually
no problem.
enable. Yeah.
No problem. I will. So, what's the better to be used, homeopathic or phytotherapy in organic creations?
That's a very interesting question, and I have to say, as I said at the beginning, I'm not a veterinarian, so I lack the experience in the field to be dealing with these. What I can say is that both are growing, but again, phytotherapy is growing more than homeopathy, specifically in Ireland, because there is a massive pressure in Ireland against homeopathy. And the reason being could be because of lack of regulation and legislation for homeopathy generally in Ireland. When I say that, I mean anyone can be a homeopathist. You don't need to have a degree, even in pharmacy or medicine, to be a homeopathist. Okay, so that's how it's playing at the moment in Ireland. In Europe can be a little bit different, and it's going to be different in each different country. Okay, but in Ireland, I can assure you that a very small number of veterinarians are using homeopathy at the moment, but an increasing number of them are attempting or using phytotherapeutic drugs.
So, Yara questions. Thinking about the development of the product veterinary usage containing natural products, what are the crucial steps?
Okay, so is that Yara,
Yes.
the Yara that came here? Oh, Yara, thank
Yes.
you for your question. Are they listening to me still?
Yes.
Yara, thank you for your question. I can't wait to have you back. You have to come back, and I have to go there as well. The crucial steps to developing a veterinary medicine are very similar to the steps to develop human medicine. And when it comes to using natural products, one thing that I actually tell all my students that I think is the most important part is the quality control. Because if you, like, there is no point in having something that you can attest and you can have like 10 veterinarians using and saying that's really good if I have no way to make sure that every single batch is going to come out exactly the same. So that's why if you remember the slides I showed about the Artemisia sina plant from Kazakhstan, that's why the very first thing we did in there was to obtain santonin and to develop the methodology on the HPLC to quantify santonin. Because of course there the question was the toxicity, but if I want to make sure that even if my product is not toxic, but if I want to make sure that the quantity of it is going to be enough for reproducing the pharmacological response, I have to have the analytical tools to do the quality control. So analytical tools there and quality control, in my opinion, are as important as establishing the efficacy of the product, because I need every single batch to be similar to the other one. We don't go to the pharmacy, for example, to buy aspirin, expecting every single time I'm going to be taken to have a different response. Okay? So, and these goes together. One sentence that I teach my first year students, and I keep saying that until when they leave us in fifth year, is chemical equivalence means pharmacological equivalence. If I'm dealing with something that I want to see a pharmacological response, I have to have as similar as possible the chemical composition.
talking about Artemisia, Yara question too. Artemisia species have already been evaluated and its parasitical activity?
Yes, and the santonin compound that was within Artemisia, okay, had the antiworm properties and was actually sold as a medicine and was actually manufactured, but that was a long time ago, and a long time ago it was discontinued because of all the toxic effects that I showed to you that the compound itself had. But the plant, one of the main ethnopharmacological uses of the plant in Kazakhstan is exactly for treating worms in animals. Okay, of course, but that's why when the student came to me, the main issue was we have to develop a technique, and I'm not going to say that there was a technique. There was a technique for the evaluation of santonin published prior to me, one paper, and there was also by HPLC, but they were quantifying santonin in 15 minutes. And everyone here that works with phytotherapy and with plants knows that lower the amount of time that I'm going to be doing my analysis is better for industrial purposes because I want my quality control to be fast. So if I can have the analysis of several products,
and the time is money for the industry.
Time is money. Exactly.
So Dr. McIntosh said, a very competent presentation which showed that caution has to be used when developed any pharmaceutical products, including those from natural products. Excellent. And Fábio question in Portuguese. Qual o maior potencial na explosão do uso de plantas na terapia de enfermidade dos animais? Seria através de formulações contendo extratos, óleos essenciais, ou na exploração de moléculas presentes com atividades farmacêuticas e posterior síntese delas? You can answer in Portuguese too.
I was going to ask you to answer this in Portuguese or in English.
Oh, sorry.
Ok, então vou responder em português porque a pergunta foi feita em português, tá? A questão aí é uma pergunta muito interessante e depende bastante, porque, por exemplo, eu digo para os meus alunos, quando a gente está lidando com farmacologia para humanos, tá? Por conta da pura complicação que é ter o controle de qualidade para uma mistura complexa, como tanto um óleo essencial quanto um extrato de planta, eu sempre digo que se a planta tem uma substância ativa, o melhor é se tentar ou obter aquela substância ativa. Eu sei que sustentabilidade, de uma maneira geral, não vai permitir que a gente a obtenha por extração da planta, mas você pode desenvolver rotas biotecnológicas para produzir ou através de síntese. E aí você simplifica demais a questão do controle de qualidade, e aí você sabe que é uma substância pura. Mas, por exemplo, quando você olha para plantas usadas na medicina tradicional chinesa, tá? De uma maneira geral, você não tem uma substância ativa. De uma maneira geral, é o extrato inteiro que é ativo, de uma forma muito bonita em termos de sinergismo. E, às vezes, os componentes minoritários são os responsáveis pela ação. Então, nesse caso, em casos em que extratos vão ser utilizados, é imprescindível que técnicas de controle de qualidade para padronização de extratos sejam desenhadas e que os extratos sempre sejam obtidos padronizados. Isso não é uma novidade. Por exemplo, o ginkgo biloba, que é uma planta medicinal muito usada e prescrita no mundo inteiro, ele é vendido na forma de extrato padronizado. Então você compra o extrato padronizado de ginkgo biloba EGB 761, que é o extrato obtido, passado por 20 procedimentos cromatográficos diferentes para concentrar os ativos. Tá? Mas, de qualquer forma, a gente está falando do extrato complexo, tá? Com muitas substâncias. Então, é claro, se a gente tem uma substância majoritária, sendo ela tanto de um extrato quanto de um óleo essencial, e que aquela substância é a única ou a principal responsável pela atividade, o ideal é isolar ou obter por biotecnologia ou por síntese. E lavar as mãos para as outras, mas se você está lidando com uma matriz complexa, que depende de todos eles por sinergismo, tá? Aí você tem que padronizar mesmo.
So, Yara said that I also can't wait to return. Thank you for the answer. I fully agree. Quality control rocks. And Faf says that the invite to go to the Ilha Grande is open for you when you come from here.
Tell Fabio that was accepted when I was there, so I can't wait for the pandemic to be over. So I'm gonna be in Ilha Grande.
Come on here to go to Ilha Grande. And Fab says that thank you very much for the opportunity to cooperation and using the linking of Professor Yari. So let me see that I missing something. Oh, do you have some students, Brazilian students work with you at this moment?
Yes, I have, because last year I went to Rio to talk at the Brazilian Conference on Natural Products. I was one of the keynote speakers there. And then a former student of mine from the undergraduation as well, probably a little bit before you, she now is a professor in the Federal University of Minas Gerais. Not now, she's a professor in the Federal University of Minas Gerais for many years, but then she would have a student that she would want to send to me through the CAP Sprint program to do an entire year with me in Dublin. And then I was introduced to that student at the conference, and we agreed everything. And the student came, and she arrived here. I spoke at the conference the beginning of November. The student arrived here beginning of December. So we had plans. I told her that wasn't the best time for her to arrive because we have a break for Christmas. So she pretty much started and had to go for a break. And then we came back again in January, and everything was going really well until March, when the pandemic hit and we had to go into lockdown. And we were locked down until August. And then she was all of these months without being able to work, but then she resumed her work in August. And then she, although we are again now in lockdown for 3 weeks and looking to be lifted only on the 1st of December, so we still have 3 full weeks and a little days, a few days more to finish. So she managed to work a lot in here. And then was speaking. I had a meeting with her supervisor, my former student in Brazil last week, and she acknowledged that if she stayed in Brazil, she wouldn't have done anything because the university in Minas was closed until now.
Yes.
So she would have zero opportunity to work. So she was very thankful. She was like, "Oh, really? I'm so grateful that you received these students there." So yes, I have this student who is flying back to Brazil, feeling really sorry that her dream is over next week. And she came over with her husband and 2 kids. And the kids went to school, and they are so sorry that they are leaving. And they even, I had a final meeting with her today via Zoom to discuss the results. And then she told me, "Fabio, my heart is broken because my kids are telling me, 'Mom, can we sell our house in Brazil and move to Dublin?'" Yeah, so the short answer, yes, I have, but that she's finishing and she's going back. But at the moment, due to the pandemic as well, I was supposed to have 2 professors from Amapá in the north of Brazil to be working with me, and we have a collaboration with a plant that's used in the Amazon as an edible plant, as well as to treat other conditions, to treat like conditions in human illnesses. But they couldn't come because of the pandemic. And then at the moment, my lab has only one, a PhD student from Saudi Arabia. And she managed to arrive in August as well after being home for many months. So things are going really slow.
Yes, because of the pandemic. Yeah. So thank you very much. And we have no more questions. And thank you very much for your participation.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for having me. And it's always a pleasure. And wait, when the pandemic is over, you'll be there.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So now we have finished the second day of the International Symposium, and we return on Friday to make the last day of the International Symposium in Veterinary Science. Thank you for everybody.